Good morning. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene. And today we're talking about
Dragonbane, I believe. Yes, Dragonbane. We are talking about Dragonbane. I know we've mentioned in the past, but me and Jolene actually got to play Dragonbane the last few weeks, couple weeks actually, and we just wanted to get a little bit of more personal thoughts on what we thought of Dragonbane and how things went.
it was pretty fun.
I like Free League. They're a pretty good publishing company. And when they said they were going to come out with this book, I took a look at their Kickstarter and I said, well, I already have a lot of fantasy role-playing games. And I didn't kickstart it. My brother, on the other hand, saw it, and so did my friend Mike, and said, yeah, let's do it. Let's kickstart that one. So when I went to go visit him, I think it was July or something like that, July, June, this summer.
Anyway,
He had bought me a complete box, a box set. It comes in a box set for the Kickstarter. And I said, oh, thanks. He goes, I know you didn't kickstart it. I go, yeah, I know. And I brought it home, and I really didn't look at it too much. I thought it was interesting. Mirth and Mayhem is the subtitle of the game. It's based on a old Swedish game.
don't butcher the name, please.
What was the name of it? Huh?
I don't know.
It's like
I don't know. The lady that said it butchered it, so I'm not going to
I'll
attempt
butcher it too. It's like I don't remember. It was Swedish, like Dragon Och Demoner, right? Demone.
Dragons and Demons.
Dragons and Demons. Yeah, and it basically grew up. It was published right after D&D, and D&D didn't quite make it to Sweden in Sweden's native language. So they came up with another kind of like D&D, but also influenced by some other RPGs at the time. And years later, obviously, and last year they kickstarted it and produced this box set. As far as box sets go, it's pretty neat. Free League does really well in creating box sets. They not only put the rules, but they usually put little maps in there. This one has counters, little standees, cardboard standees, and little stands that you can use to for your figures.
And dice.
And dice, of course. They have a complete set of dice. And the rules are broke up into two booklets. One is the actual rule book, and the other one's like a campaign book.
So there's only one rule book, and one is a campaign book.
Right. And the rule book is only 112 pages.
Yes.
Which is amazing, right?
Yeah, it's going the way games are going these days versus
You think so?
old. Well, I guess some games give you the big old book.
Right.
But they try to get everything in there.
Right.
And the kitchen sink. So, but this one is nice. I like the rules. I like Free League. I like the way I like Alien. They publish Alien and Tales from the Loop. What else do they publish?
Coriolis is one. You never tried that one.
Yeah,
They
but you
published
and
Blade Runner.
Yeah, Blade Runner.
I've run a couple Coriolis games. At the time, it was online, and I think it was probably during the pandemic. They didn't really catch on with the players. So they also came out. One of the first games I think was Mutant Year Zero, back in the old days.
So their games are like they have interesting things that make it pretty easy. Usually, it's just an attribute and a skill together. On like some of the games,
Most of the games are like their dice pool.
This one is even easier because it's all when you put it onto the character sheet, it's just one number, right? I assume it's
just one number,
and then you just have to roll under it.
Right. So unlike not every other, but most of their other games, it's not the dice pool system that they came up with. It's not the 6D dice pool system. Add the number of 6 dice for your attribute plus your skill, and that's the number of dice you need to roll. You need to roll a 6 to succeed usually in most their games. And there's other rules to it, but that's basically it. This one, it kind of harkens back to D&D because they're rolling a D20, but instead of a roll high, it's a roll low.
And you use all the polyhedral dice because for my character that I'm playing, the dagger does a D8 of damage.
Yes, right. So I don't know if they use the D4. Maybe they do. I think, well, it's included in the...
I'm pretty sure they do.
Yeah, it's included in the dice set. So obviously they use a D4 for some sort of damage or something.
Of course, you might just want to give people the D4 because it's a cool die. It's a triangle, right? Sort of.
Caltrop, maybe.
Yeah.
Pyramid.
Yeah.
So the reason I didn't kickstart it was, like I said before, I have Pathfinder, I have D&D, I have low fantasy gaming, and I'm like, do I need another fantasy game? So I decided I didn't need this game, and then my brother gave it to me, and then we played it. So I said, wow, this game's a little bit different than all the other games that we played. Even low fantasy gaming, which is an OSR type, it meshes OSR like AD&D with 5th edition in a little bit, right? But there's still a big rule book. It still has a lot of content. There's a lot of stuff to remember. And this one, what I liked was it's just really simple.
You also have swords and sorcery, right?
I do not have swords and sorcery.
I'm pretty sure you do because it's a big old book.
I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
The one...
Oh, you're talking about Super Swordsmen of Hyperborea?
No.
Oh. Well, you can look it up. At my bookshelves, I do have a lot of games. Might have been one I maybe got the title wrong, but
it's the one that the people in England publish.
Oh yeah, Chivalry and Sorcery.
That's it.
Oh yeah, and then there's Chivalry and Sorcery, right?
Sorry if I got the name wrong.
Yes. So obviously, there's a lot of RPGs, fantasy RPGs in my collection, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure I want another one, especially a box set. I'm not really into box sets. I know people love them. I particularly don't because
it takes up more space.
It takes up a lot of space, and sometimes all that stuff gets all destroyed. The box gets destroyed if you don't treat it right, and it gets smashed and stuff like that. But neither here nor there.
He says that, but none of his boxes are smashed.
I don't have a lot of box sets, but neither here nor there. I was thinking, why not just play D&D, right? And why does this game? What makes it different?
What makes it different?
Is that difference enough to make me play that instead of 5th edition?
Well, one, your brother bought it, so then it's going to hit the table, right?
Yes. It took a while because he gave it to me, last...
it was been 6 months.
6 months, right? In the summer of 23. And we've had it. We played together a few games. And finally, I told my brother, because we rotate GMs in our Friday night game. And I go, it's kind of your turn. Previously, he said he wasn't ready. I understand, he wasn't ready. And then this time he said yes, because I was like, oh, wow. And what game are you going to run? And he goes, Dragonbane. I go, oh, cool. So that's where we got to playing the game. And right off the bat, why not just play D&D? Which is a very good question, right? 5th edition, super popular. Everybody wants to play it, who's either has heard of role-playing or has heard of D&D or is coming back to playing D&D. And D&D, this 5th edition version of D&D is actually probably one of the best and easiest ones to get back into the game or to start playing.
I'm going to say for our group or your groups that I play with, I think they like to try out different systems, right?
Oh, yeah,
they want to
definitely.
see what compare and contrast. And every system, it's amazing to watch these guys read the books and go, oh, this is how it's different from this, and this is the way that you're going to do it. And I'm like going, I read it and I didn't get any of that, but that's okay because I'm reading it going, wow, this is kind of cool. Now let's see how is that going to work. And they're like analyzing it, and this is how it's going to go.
Well, okay, so my brother's a computer programmer, right? Most of our friends that play games are in the tech business. They're either computer programmers or whatever, right? And like Bay was talking about the 2nd edition of the One Ring, and he was telling me about the differences in edition as far as, you know what? I don't remember. I'm sorry, Bay. But he was telling me the differences, and I'm like, now I've read the rules to the 2nd edition, and I had no clue as to what he was talking about. Now I understood what he was saying, right, about the differences. I don't remember seeing that difference when I was reading the book.
I think that's because you read so many different books. I know he does too, but
I just don't read critically enough sometimes, I think.
yeah, you got to parse it out,
Yes,
as my history professor would say.
So Indeed, you are totally correct as far as our friends looking at the rules and like to compare and contrast to other systems.
And see how it plays. So that's why we get a lot of games, a lot of different games, right?
Right.
We like because they want to see if they're it harkens back to the fact that I believe all gamers are looking for the perfect game to play. And as far as I'm concerned, whatever game you're playing, if you really like it, then that's probably the perfect game for you. But there's always a chance that the next game is going to be better, and I think that's what playing different games comes down to, right?
Yeah, you hit the head on the nail on that one. I really agree with what you're saying, especially with me. If you look at all my bookshelves and all the games that I have, and I have quite a few.
I'm going to count them one day so I can tell you all exactly how many he has.
Yeah, I have a ton, but not as much as some people, right? So I consider myself not the hoarder, but the collector of sorts, an eclectic collection. But you're right. For me, as a player and a GM, I want to run a game that's simple to run, that flows easily with my personality, I guess, maybe. And there's a lot of games that I really like. I really like Tales from the Loop, right? I really like Coriolis, and I really like 5th edition, but I like Pathfinder too at the same time. I like Shadowrun 5th edition, but I harken back to the 1st edition, and I had a ton of fun with that, even as everybody says it was a terrible broken system. And to me, what happens is, how much fun did I have when I was playing or running it? Dark Conspiracy, that is an interesting, weird system.
Dark Conspiracy is cool.
But but I had a ton of fun running that. So that, I think, is what drives a lot of people who buy different role-playing games and not stick with just one system.
But then again, Paranoia is cool too.
Yes.
I mean, there's all kinds of different games that
right, and a lot of
each game has different aspects of what you're doing that's going to be fun, right?
Right, and I think a lot of it has to do with the setting of the game, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I really like Tales from the Loop, and it is probably one of the easiest games for me to run and for me to play.
Because he's never left the 80s, so there you go.
That's not true. The 80s generation was the best music ever. No, I don't believe that. But you might be right. It might be some nostalgic vibe. I like that you can use any place in the world to put your loop in, and if in fact they suggest it. But I just really like the simplicity of it, the wholesome of the setting. You know, you're just kids out solving mysteries, like maybe some TV show, like, I don't know, like Leave It to Beaver, even though that ages me quite a bit, and that's way before my time, by the way, way before my time.
And it's not in the 80s either, so there you go.
Yes, but what's the 80s show? Can't think of it. Doesn't matter. Why I play this one? Well, I just said it was easier to play, easier to introduce to players.
Mainly because the character creation, well, one, they give you pre-gens, but every game does that. But the character creation is a lot simpler. And I like the fact that it has a literal list of all the things you need to do.
Right.
So that makes it, I thought that was so cool. I was looking at it going, oh my goodness, you can just check it off as you go. Unlike some, you're like, did I do everything? Did I get all the stuff in, right?
Yes, and that was a comment too on somebody's YouTube video, where they said that it was like a step-by-step process, and once you got past the pages, you didn't have to flip back to check the rules or something like that.
And I like that. It was set out, the rules were set out very,
I think, methodically and in order that you would want to build your character.
Because there's some games that they tell you things like, this is what you need to do, but then you have to go and look it up on page 482 because that's where the actual what it does is, right?
Right. And I think that is a big selling point for me on this one, was that the rule book is 112 pages.
Yes.
The main rule book. And that's all you need to make a character and run the adventures. Of course, the campaign book is about the campaign that's in the box setting. But all you need is a 112-page book, and you have a complete role-playing game. Now, I dug out my 5th edition Player's Handbook, and that book is 311 pages, and it's smaller print than the Dragonbone.
But in that player's handbook, there's a lot more information. A lot more information.
A lot more stuff.
Yeah.
So what I liked about the character creation was you didn't have to flip back to any back and forth as to, oh, you need to make a character, flip to page 203, do this, and then come back to this page. No, you just flipping the page in order, you're marking down, or you could actually make it totally random by rolling the die as to what race you want to be and all that stuff, which they call kin.
And they have a very interesting one, the mallard.
Well, the Wolfman too
and the Wolfman, yeah.
So they have I think they have a halfling, they have dwarves, they have elves, humans, and then they have the two very interesting ones, the mallard, which is
is what it says, is Daffy Duck.
Yeah, like Daffy Duck, but a more serious Daffy Duck.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny. And then the
wolfkin.
Wolfkin is like kind of like a wolf person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Right. So what I like about that is that there's, like I said, it's so simple that you don't have to be turning back and forth, and that's a big plus in my book. Some things about comparing it to D&D, right, and which is the biggest RPG, fantasy RPG out there, and everybody thinks that is a great introduction to role playing. I would say that this one probably is a little bit better for new players coming in, because if you have that starter set, you don't even have to make them make their characters. You could just have the characters already made. There's pre-gens in the box with the standee and everything.
I wouldn't use the term better than. I would use the term maybe easier.
That's what I said. Easier. Okay, not better. Easier. It just plays easier than 5th edition.
There's less explaining.
And rules looking up.
Yeah.
Right? So here are my 5 things that I think I liked this game more than, let's say, 5th edition D&D. Initiative. Now, me and Jolene have talked about card initiatives, and pretty much we don't like them, right? We kind of have that idea. That was in Through the Breach, which is an RPG based on the world of Malifaux. It uses the cards for everything. For
everything.
Combat, but the initiative is also in there.
Yes.
Savage Worlds uses cards for initiative.
We played that Lindworm game. It uses cards.
Well, I'm Sleepaway Camp. I don't know if I would include that in a role-playing game.
So that wasn't Saul's favorite game.
It wasn't.
I thought it was interesting. So
interesting is a word.
But that's one of the only ones that I've ever played with cards.
Yes, and what I liked about, and all those other ones are good. I mean, they're fine. I mean, I just think, well, if you're just randomizing, just roll a die. I don't see the inherent need to use cards.
Although I like the cards in here because you can see them, right? Yeah, it's different than when you roll your initiative and the GM either writes it down on a piece of paper or puts it. There's all kinds of different things people do for initiative. They have like a little tree and they put the people's names and they go different things like that.
Yeah.
So there's visual.
There's a visual component to it.
So the card is very visual because it's sitting there.
Yeah, I think even I've seen some pretty interesting things as far as initiative. They have GM screens, and some people just like attach them to the top of the GM screen by
paper clips
or something like that. And some like really nice ones, they have like little grooves. You can put cards on the top, but very specialized. But this one has just cards, right? And what I like about the card, it tells you what you can do on your turn,
right?
Which I think is very helpful. And 2, you can swap your initiative.
And that is pretty cool.
And I thought, wow, that really changes the dynamic of any kind of fight scene, because all of a sudden the person who's not engaged who's not turn it is, you have to think about them in the battle sense, in the tactical sense of, well, I'm in a position where I really can't affect the fight at the beginning, and it doesn't really matter. So switching your initiative to somebody else and give them a lower initiative count.
So they go before you.
Right. It does make a huge difference in the game, in the fight scene. And I thought that was pretty neat. At first I was like, cars, okay. But then they're like, oh, we could swap them. Oh. And that really just changed the dynamic of the game.
Which actually was good because when we played, I couldn't do anything. I mean, I could, but I didn't want to die. I was already hurt. So I just kept giving my card away to the next person and we went down.
Because she kept drawing a lower card.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought that was pretty amazing. And it really sold me on the whole idea of a card initiative when it's used that way.
Because sometimes you're stuck where you can't, what you're going to do is not necessarily going to be helpful to right away.
Right.
Whereas you could give it to the fighter who's in front of you who could do it, who could go and actually do damage to start with.
An initiative changes every turn.
And I like that. That's pretty cool.
The second thing I thought was pretty neat was armor. Now, D&D and armor, since its inception, has always been
D&D armor stacks, right? So you have your leather armor, right? It gives you something like a +1, but if you add a helmet, then it gives you more, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
It does.
Yes.
But this one, your armor just has one. It just gives you something. I don't know if you can have more armor or not. Maybe you could have a helmet too.
I think a helmet gives you different kinds of pluses. But what all armor does in this game, it doesn't make you harder to hit like in D&D, which forever people have discussed that it makes no sense. But what it does do is it takes away damage, right? If you get hit for 8 points, leather armor takes, just regular leather old armor takes 1 point away. If you're wearing studded leather, it takes 2 points away. If you're wearing plate mail, it takes like 6 or 8 points away. And that makes sense to me, right? If you have a bulletproof vest and somebody shoots you, it's going to hurt. You're going to take some damage, maybe, depending on how tough you are.
Yes, it's going to hurt.
But the vest is gonna take a lot of that damage for you.
Shadowrun has that kind of thing where your armor subtracts the amount of damage that's done,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So that I understood it when it said it, but unfortunately I was playing a thief and I had only leather armor, so I only had 1 point of armor to take away any damage, which is very bad in this game because you don't have very many hit points.
Right, and you don't gain hit points either.
No.
Whatever hit points you have at the beginning of the game, pretty much you're stuck with those points. So like a lot of hit points is like 15 to 16 hit points.
I didn't have that. I had 12.
And that's it.
And that's it. And I got hit and I think I took 11 damage. Maybe I had 13. Yeah. I took 11 or 12 damage, so I was down to like 1 hit point.
Yeah, so along with that is you have you can parry.
Yes.
Right? Which I didn't write down as to one of the things I liked, but it allows you to try to block damage.
Yes. There's one thing about that though that you should point out is that if you do parry, that is your action. It's not like in D&D where it's a reaction.
Automatic.
Yeah. This one is if someone hits you and you parry, that's your action for that round.
Right. Yes.
And also what is the thing that it does to your weapon if you try to parry?
You could it could be damaged.
Right.
Right. So you roll I think every weapon and shield has a durability. And you roll a 20-sided die. No, if the damage is...
You roll the damage dice.
You roll the damage die.
And if the damage is more than the durability of the weapon is out of commission until it's repaired.
Right.
So you won't be able to use it again.
Right. And you can parry with a weapon or you can parry with a shield.
And then if you lose your shield, then you
lose that shield.
Yes.
It needs to be repaired.
It needs to be repaired.
Yes. So armor, pretty interesting. Along with armor is the parry mechanic, which I thought it makes a lot of tactical sense to me. And sometimes, you can't keep parrying, right?
Right.
Because then you won't ever get to attack. So there's a little bit of tactics involved as to when you want to act first and when you want to let that guy try to hit you. And then if he misses, then you don't have to parry. So that gives you an avenue to attack. So it's very interesting. I like it. Armor, very cool. Very simple. Not much to explain. Makes sense. No levels. I really like games now with no levels. It never made sense to me. You reach 1,000 experience points when I was original D&D and ring, I know stuff, right? Of course, my brother used the optional training rules. So you had to go somewhere and get trained because you now had enough experience that they would train you. that kind of made sense.
Because that made more sense to him.
But a lot of people use that training option. It fell out at AD&D. After AD&D, or maybe second edition included it. I don't know. I didn't play second edition. But third edition training was out. Fourth edition and fifth edition training never made its ugly reared its ugly head again.
Now, you've always said this, but I've always thought of experience points as you're going through the game, your first level, by the time you reach a certain amount of experience points, you've gained that experience to go to the second level to learn those things.
Okay.
That's the way I always thought of it.
That makes sense, yes. I understand what you're saying, but it's still ring, and you get more hit points. You get these special abilities depending on what kind of class you are. Yeah, I don't like levels. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I know that they're inherent in a lot of systems. I think a lot of people are moving away from that kind of...
Well, even Shadowrun doesn't have levels. You just improve yourself.
And that's what this game does, right?
Yeah.
You improve certain aspects of your character, especially if you did really well at a skill or really bad at a skill. And in this case, a really good roll is a 1, which they call a dragon, because dragons are good, I guess. And a boon.
That's a boon.
And a boon. And a bane is what they call a demon, is a 20.
Which is really hard for people who play D&D because you want to roll a 20, but in this game you don't. You want to roll as low as you can.
As low as you can.
Which isn't always easy.
And I think when you don't have to worry about levels, because I know D&D's, and I never really played this way, but a lot of people don't like levels in D&D because there's certain levels that like nothing really happens, right? You maybe get some skill points.
You get to add a 1-to-1 attribute or 2. No?
That happens every other
level, yeah.
Right. So one level, nothing happens is what they're saying, right? You get hit points and maybe some skill points, and that's it. Where the other level, the next level, that's when you get, I can talk to animals now, or I get a spell.
I get to add.
Right. Correct. So a lot of people call it the wasted level or the useless level.
I've never heard that, but I believe you.
I've never thought of it that way because I didn't think of it that way. But yeah, it eliminates all that crap. Next, the push mechanic, just like in every other free league game that uses their Year Zero engine, they allow you to push. That means if you miss, they allow you to try again. But you take a condition when you push. There's 5 conditions. You check it, and then you suffer. Is it 5?
6.
I'm sorry, 6 conditions, and you check it off automatically, and then you get to re-roll the whatever you're trying to do.
And you don't just randomly take it. It has to do with if you're angry or dazed. You check that one. Like dazed is the agility score. So whenever you do your agility, you're going to have Bane, right?
Right. Well, you role play it, right? You say, well, how is missing this roll or whatever going to affect you? Because like I was trying to charm some lady or try to get information from her, and I said I was exhausted because we had been traveling all day, and I didn't think about it. I should have checked off the charisma, but my brother goes, oh yeah, and so I'm gonna upplay that I'm exhausted, that I made like a social faux pas because I was so tired, and that's what happened. So I thought that was pretty interesting that you role play the condition that occurred.
Right.
I think it's pretty neat, and you get to re-roll, of course.
Sometimes it doesn't work. I rolled 3 19s in a row and ended up with 1 hit point. So there we go. And a condition.
Yeah, that was amazing. And just to show you that this game it is possible you were pretty close to dying. So it is possible to kill you off pretty easily. So, yeah, the push mechanic is pretty neat. 5, the willpower mechanic, right? So there in this game, there's these heroic, what do they call them? Abilities. They have heroic abilities, which are kind of like feats, right? But unlike D&D that you get them and you use them anytime you want, anytime the condition is right, in this case, you have to spend willpower points. And that allows you to do this like special cool thing. It also powers spells. So spells are used by using your willpower.
Yes.
And your willpower goes down, right? It's kind of like hit
You have
points.
15 willpower, I think. I think everybody has 15. I'm not sure. I did anyway.
I think it depends on
On the character?
on the character, right? And how much. I'm not sure what it depends on, but I'm sure it depends on your intelligence and wisdom or whatever it is. And
And you get a kin one, like I'm a halfling, so I get a special hard to catch. Is it comes with the kin or
Right.
who you are, and then you also get a heroic ability, and mine was backstabbing. So the first one is hard to catch, and the second one was backstabbing. And
Yes.
you use the will points, and mine cost 3 will points to use.
Right, because in this game, when you're making your character, every time you make a decision, it gives you something, right? So you choose your kin, which is your race, if you want to use that term, and it gives you a special ability available to that kin, to that character type. I mean, to that race. And then when you kind of choose like a job or a profession, you get another you get another one, or you can choose one when you gain experience, which is pretty cool. And those things are powered by willpower. And unlike hit points, willpower are a little bit easier to regain. Like hit points, like in D&D, you can take a short rest, which is I think the rests are a little bit different. They are I forget what the first.
So there's a round rest, which just gives you, it's for a single combat, and you can gain a willpower back, not hit points.
One willpower, or just some
A D6, only a
yeah.
D6 willpower, no hit points.
Right.
And then there's the stretch rest, which is like a 15-minute rest,
Right.
which you can also gain. You heal a D6 of hit points or 2d6 of hit points if someone else is tending to you. So that's and then there's the shift, and there's 4 shifts in the day. It's a 6-hour shift, right? So it kind of changes the long and short rest into different kinds of,
And you can only do one shift rest in a
per day. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. If you have someone to help heal you, you can get it back, get hit points back, or willpower. Or well, actually, it says during the shift rest, you recover all your lost hit points and willpower, and heal all conditions. So that helps you with your willpower to be able to do stuff, and it takes away those conditions that you got from pushing and not being able to, not making it.
Right. So it's really cool. Like I said, I really like that. I thought it was, and it's just a simple idea to add the willpower, and I like it. I really like the way that it works. So you're not have all these heroic feats and just doing them all the time. You want to make sure that you use them to when it's appropriate, right? When you think it's gonna be really necessary.
When I saw that Mike was using it because he played a magic user, it made me think of being a sorceress in D&D, right?
Okay.
You only have so many spell slots that you can use a day. Unlike wizards, they have to memorize certain spells, right? This one, you have spell slots where as a sorcerer, you can use any spell you want, but you only have so many slots per day. So that's kind of makes sense with the willpower. You use 3 willpower, or I think Mike could even use a different amount to make the spell bigger.
Right, to make
But
more
then
impact.
he loses those willpower, so he won't be able to until he has a rest, right?
So you have to decide how much willpower to invest in a spell. Some, like she said, some spells allow you to add willpower to get more effect, or you could just use less willpower just to.
At least that's what I think.
And I think it's pretty neat. I think there's a lot more decision making in that kind of sense for a fighter who is, or any character who has all these heroic traits, or they call it heroic abilities, as to when to use them or when not to use them. And I think that really changes the dynamic of like feats in 3rd edition, where you could always use a feat no matter how many times in the fight you want to use it. I thought it was pretty neat. I think it really limits it. So, and because this game, the fights are really deadly because you don't have a lot of hit points, you really want to make those good decisions as to when to use those heroic feats and how to use willpower. Because once your willpower runs out, you can't use any more heroic feats. And for the sorcerer, they can't throw any more spells.
Yeah.
So I think it's very interesting how that really makes the game a little bit more tactical, right? And you have to think about when to use these spells or heroic abilities.
So it goes back to more like OSR style
Well,
in that
oh.
one. It's going back to tactics, right?
Well,
And there are tables. I saw a couple tables.
Well, yeah. I think it was kind of funny when we defeated the goblins that were attacking us. My brother was drawing cards for the treasure.
And he didn't like the first card. He said, "No, that's too much." And then he drew another card, which made Mike go, "Come on!"
It drew the ire of some of the players playing, but I think it was pretty neat. I like I said, as far as another fantasy role playing game,
This one is pretty good.
do we really need another one? Well, this one does fit a very interesting niche in role playing. For example, they didn't really flesh out the whole world. They gave you ideas as to why you're in this one valley and exploring this lost valley that nobody has really been there for a long time, or the outside world is finally coming in and exploring it again. I thought it was pretty neat. It allows you to build your world almost any way you want for people who want to homebrew, or I'm sure if you wait a little while, Free League will come out with world books or something along those lines. Probably, I don't know. I'm not privy to that kind of information, but I really like that idea that it's kind of open ended, but it has also a campaign book that you could just start off and start playing right away. And I think it really does work well for people new to role playing games. If you think D&D is just a little bit too hard or a little bit too much rules, Dragonbane is a good fit for brand new players who just want to get in and not have to be led by the nose as to what to do or how to do it, because it tells you right on the page what you're doing, and it's real simple. So I really liked it. I didn't kickstart it. I probably, if I had like seen what it was about or played it or whatever, I might have kickstarted it, but I didn't have to. My brother gave me a box, a set of rules, so I really like it. It works really well. So if you don't have a fantasy role-playing game in your library, or you want to take a break from D&D, I think this one is really cool.
There you go. Have fun. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene.
And you have a good day.